every single one of you.
I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich.
This is my home. They're gonna need a wrecking ball to take me out of here.
Good timing, everybody, whether it's morning, evening, or anywhere in between. Welcome to unRekt Traders. Today we're taking a look at Bitcoin on the machine, and we are currently on the monthly. I believe it's 2 days past the halving. So on the monthly right now, everything is in trend to the upward direction. Nothing on mean reversions. More than likely next month with the 10 red here, we should see a mean reversion more than likely, but the monthly is 8 days away. When that does happen, this 10 green will be sitting probably about the 47,800 level. But if we just look at the charts currently, for this month, all we have as of currently is very strong support at 53,100, and then our 3.2 resistance at 83,400. So we are range bound within this range. Next month we could see a drop down to the 10, depending if this does come into the minus 100, or sorry, plus 100. Then we could see a drop to that 47,000, or at least to support. The 20 itself on the white here is very strong support as of right now anyway, and this is actually going to move up next month, so it'll probably be sitting in and around 56,800, which is kind of this support shelf right here. However, I do still think that overall we're going to want to come to that 53,000 range, and then we'll see how that kind of plays out. On the weekly, we have just come into the 20 Bollinger Band, and we can see on the weekly, you know, we are bullish. We've only been riding the trend line for the most part, even up to this point, where even though it did come down below with a wick, the body itself still has closed above that trend, the 10 trend line. So we are trending in the bullish direction currently. Now we did come into the 20 Bollinger Band, which is white. We're giving us resistance at 69,600. Typically when we come into a new Bollinger Band, it does try to exit one more time. And then if it does do that, then obviously we would take it to liquidity, more than likely at the 73,000. If it is weak, then you know this last bullish candle could hold us and then continue in that downward direction. But we'll see how it plays out. The 10, you know, did come to the mean reversion. We got that mean reversion we were looking for basically since March 18th, and then with the 20 coming into the range, that is our new target, and that went into effect on April 8th. And that 20 white target is sitting at 54,007. Well, it's 54,800. But again, with the Aqua 50 being as high as it is, and it is currently leveling out, we have very strong support at that 58,400 level. So again, more or less just range bound between the top of the Bollinger Band here to support, and then possible wick down to the possible target this week or next week. More than likely probably next week, unless we get like a big kind of crash, and then we'll have the new monthly as well. Coming into the 3-day, on the 3-day itself, you know, we came down to support on that 100. We can see that the 100 yellow was above the range. Now the 10 did come back up, and as the 10 came back up, we got that mean reversion. So basically down to support. We knew it wasn't going to go below other than by a wick, and then we had to push back up on the 10, bringing us right back to that top of the 50 Bollinger Band at 67,500. We'll see if this Bollinger Band holds, but same thing as before. It's the first time coming into it. It typically does try to escape. Now if it does escape, then we could come up to the resistive levels here at 71,200 one more time. If it does get that high, then I think it would probably try to take out liquidity and do a run for the 3.2 at 79,100. But we'll see if this little shelf area here can hold. So basically price coming up to maybe the 67.5, or kind of a little bit higher, 69.4, and then continue to push down to the target down here at 50, let's just say 53,000. And then again, we have huge support at 49,900. So, and we can see the 200 purple Bollinger Band sitting very high, giving us that support. The 100 is also starting to move in that upward direction. but that could easily collapse on itself and become weak support, giving us a wick down. But again, for the most part, as of right now on this weekly, we're pretty much within 71,400 and 59,500. On the daily itself, we had the mean reversions coming up into that upward direction. We can see that we came into that 200 Bollinger Band, so 200 purple here. We kind of came into that level, and then because the 10 was low and the 20, well, and the 50 for that matter, as the price pushed up, that was the exit that we got on that 200. So it came in, it always tries to exit one time. So we came up into that possible target. It's where we are now. We already hit the 10, we got the 20 perfectly as of right now, and we're kind of aiming for that 50 at 67,000, let's just say 67,600. And then, we have an imbalance on this candle here. So if I draw that little imbalance on this is the daily. So we're kind of looking at price coming up into this, hopefully coming up into this little range area, getting the resistance on that 20, and then continuing down to the downward direction and coming into these target areas down here. Now, if price does break above this little shelf level or above here, then we could see liquidity being taken out of up here. But again, we do want to see that, well, I want to see that downward direction down into this one. Let's see if the sell a man go away comes true or not. On the 4 hour itself, again, same thing as the daily for the most part. We had our mean reversions take place on the 10, the 20, and then the 100, 200 came into place. We've already gotten the 100, almost to the 200. So that was the play, and this was kind of a long drawn out upward direction. So it wasn't the strongest move. Again, we have the imbalances on these candles here. This was a nice impulse candle taking out structure. So we kind of knew with these candles that price was heading in that downward direction. Again, a nice impulse candle breaking structure here as well, taking liquidity, and then we kind of had that upward move. On the 1 hour, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but just kind of take a look at where the 20 or where the 10 is at currently, and the 10 is on that downward direction. And I guess, well, more or less we could say it's already hit it, to be honest. And then the 50 acting 50, we have quite a bit of support here. Impulse candle moving upwards, not really doing anything for the most part, and then another candle kind of taking out structure from down here for the most part. So could we go a little bit higher, 100%? And it looks like we might get one more little push up, and then we'll see how it plays out from there. Going into the Nexus, we do have a new weekly, sorry. But if we look at the higher time frames, such as the yearly, as stated before, this is still a naked yearly. We kind of hit the top range of it slightly, but the pivot itself is naked at 34,500. So there is a possibility that price does want to come back to this yearly. When we opened up on this quarterly, we did come straight down into it, hitting the pivot pretty well perfectly. And now we're just starting to break out of the top of it one more time. And just going to bring up the brush here. So on the quarterly itself, we are looking for that upward direction until the lower level breaks. As of right now, we pretty much just hit the pivot with a little bit of noise here. But for the most part, 56,200 is the level we'd have to break. Once we break that level, then we could be looking at 3-month S1 or the previous quarterly, which would be our yearly. And if we come into that yearly, there's a high probability that we'd actually come right to that 34,000. But again, we still have to break this before we even consider that. So now we are currently starting to move in that upward direction one more time, and we are kind of finding a little bit of support. Now, this is only the 1 hour. There is the possibility that this does try to push up higher, get above that previous 3-month high, and then go for the 3-month R1 at 83,800. Ultimately, from looking at the other chart, we more or less kind of want to come up into this little range here at 69.5, show weakness, and then take out liquidity here. And there is, they're equal levels, so there's quite a bit of liquidity here. tons of equal levels for the most part, and then push lower. Coming into the monthly and weekly. On the monthly itself, we do have a naked pivot here, and high probability that price would want to come back into here. Now we did have the push down almost to the previous month low, so we haven't taken out that liquidity from the previous month low yet, and if we did, then likely coming into this range here, and then if we broke down below the 53,000, which is kind of the level everyone's looking for that's bearish, then we could move down into the 43,800 level. With this monthly, it is higher than the previous month, so we would be looking for continuation to upward direction until we break through the bottom. Now we did show a bit of weakness here, but it was more of a fake out than anything, and then we showed quite a bit of weakness here as well, and then just because we didn't get the previous month high, and then we actually fell through. So it's not a very good bullish sign really, and now we're just at that lower level, and if we can't get above that pivot, then we could pretty much assume that price is going to take out the previous month low and come back into this naked range here. On the weeklies, let me get rid of the daily here and we'll zoom in a little bit. So on the weekly itself, come to the 15 so we can see it a little better. So on the weekly itself, again, we still have that naked weekly. Price opened up above it, so we typically look for price to come into that previous week high, and once we get to the previous week high, then the weekly R1. Once it gets to that weekly R1, then a move down into that weekly pivot. So we've pretty much almost hit that previous week high. We've got a little bit of resistance off the bottom of the monthly band here, and now we're showing, we went above it, kind of came below, above, and now we're back below that monthly range. And if we were to take a short and hope for the best, then we'd be looking at a 3% to the top, or possible, let's just say 3.9%. So there's possibility for that move down into that weekly now. It could pump higher, get into this weekly R1. This is kind of the levels we were hoping for. And then if it did break above this range, then we could start worrying that price will continue in that upward direction. So, looking at it from the 15-minute at this level, we don't really want to get above 69,700. But that would be a nice level to come into before continuing to that downward direction. So, you could enter in once here, take the risk, or a little bit higher to hopefully come back into this weekly. There's no guarantees, of course, and you could lose all your money for that matter, so that is an option as well. Looking at the weekly itself, we are looking for continuation in that downward direction, but like I said, because we opened above, we look for higher first, and then come into that range. But ultimately, we still have to break this lower weekly level here at 63,300 or 63,300, let's say, to push down to the previous week low, take out liquidity, and then we'd be at that previous month low, and more than likely at that point we would come into this previous month range and then see what happens till the next week, or however low it pushes or however high it pushes. So I think that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Higher levels, we're looking for that continuation to that downward direction, eventually to the 53,000 kind of range area. Even on the Nexus itself, we're looking for return to pretty much that 53,000 level again. Will we push higher beforehand? We are showing that on the lower time frames that we do kind of want to go up a little bit higher before we come lower. So a little bit of bullishness before bearishness, and then we'll kind of see how it all plays out. Good luck, and we'll see you guys in the next one. If you like the content, hit the like and subscribe. If you want to learn how to use the indicators more, or to use the indicators themselves, you can join the Discord and ask for more information. Thanks for your time, and God bless.
Visit unRekt.me and download our free powerful indicators, and join our community of traders in our Discord server and get full access to the Machine Suite indicators, the Nexus Suite indicators, and the Nexus Screener.